Okay, YouTubers, welcome to the video on how to change the starter motor on a Mercedes om651, which is a little 2.2 diesel 12 plate coupe. We'll start in here. Basically, we've got a no start situation, so coming here, isn't that wonderful? It's been dry for 3 weeks. I start to change the starter motor on the missus's car and it starts raining, so we put the ignition on and it comes up with all the usual stuff. All the lights are on. Go to crank it and you get nothing. And this just happened, no warning whatsoever. This car's fitted with the eco button, which effectively turns the engine off every time we stop at traffic lights. So what happens is the route of the power, the way it works is you turn the key to cranking, and instead of just being a switch that sends a relay 12 volts to the starter motor, the message comes from the ECM, which is the engine control module. So the engine control module says things like, yeah, I'm happy for you to crank it, the gearbox is okay, the engine's okay, blah de blah, and then it gives an earth return to the relay, and it cranks. Now, my clever friend at Mercedes, he said to me, the eco button, Andy, make sure the missus doesn't use the eco button, because when these engines at om651 are fitted in a Sprinter van, they do like 500,000-600,000 miles without having to lay a spanner on them without the eco. When they're in a car, they have all sorts of issues. Obviously, they have got a smaller sump in the car. They haven't got an 11-litre sump, they've got a 5-litre sump. But what happens is the chain stretches on them, and then they have all sorts of timing chain rattle issues, and the chains at the back. If you imagine every time this car restarts itself at traffic lights in traffic, the acceleration of the starter motor turning the crankshaft, it's then got to accelerate the camshafts, so it stretches the chain eventually. Right, so we'll look at how it works. I'll just turn the ignition off so it stops buzzing. So we've just done a few basic checks. The first one is that is your starter relay. So that's the relay that gets it's got a permanent live, and this, the ECM, says to it, yeah, I'm happy for you to crank. So it earths it, and that sends 12 volts through number 7, which is a 20 amp fuse, to the purple and black wire, purple and white wire there, see it? And then on this side it becomes straight purple. Now that obviously goes straight to the starter motor to excite it to send the pinion into mesh, and then obviously it joins inside and does the spinning to make it crank. Now what I've done is I've put a voltmeter on the black and white wire, and sure enough, yes, it has got 11.2 volts, which seems a bit low, but it has got 12 volts there. So I've checked that, it's sending it to there. I've also unplugged this, and what I've done is I've got a piece of wire, attached it to the positive side of there, and flicked it just to see if I could get it to spring into life. And I can hear the starter doing something. It's sort of going click, 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 but very, very faintly. So it looks like it's the starter solenoid that's gone kaputko. Obviously this, I've just put a boost pack on it because I wasn't 100% sure that the battery was fully charged, but it's not got any voltage warnings, and it's got 12 volts everywhere else. So it's not a starter issue, it's purely, we're going to take it apart. And don't you just love this, you know, where can we put the ECU in the most stupid position? Oh, I know, let's put it on the engine where it gets hot and shakes around, rather than mounting it on the bulkhead next to the, I don't know, next to the blower motor for the fan, so it always has cold air near it. Anyway, we're not going to get all personal about the engine, we're just going to fix it. So I'm going to start, I know the starter motor from seeing a schematic is underneath here somewhere, so I'm going to start by taking all this airbox off and see if we can get a visual on it. Okay chaps, about 15 minutes in, we've done a few checks, disconnected the battery, obvious reasons. What unnecessary complication. It does come apart quite easily. I just lifted the ECU or ECM up there, some bits on the floor there, like an airbox, just pops up dead easy. But why on earth has it got two turbochargers? It's got a baby one there and a bigger one here. total unnecessary complication. I think the starter motor lives beneath this heat shield here. There's a wire going to it, which is really disappointing. Anyway, we're not going to cry, we're just going to get on with it. I think this is going to have to come off. This is going to have to come off. And then perhaps this bracket, and we should have access to the starter. I'm probably going to have to get underneath it and lower this down, if not take it off completely. I think that's called a DPF. I'm not looking forward to moving near this, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drown it all in WD-40, and then we'll start taking it apart and just see where we end up. I don't know how you're meant to get to them two there. That is ridiculous. Unless this has got to come off first. No, surely not. Oh my lord. Okay chaps, quick update. It's actually not quite as painful as I first thought. Always helps when you've got a brew. This is the most awkward bit to remove. This is the actuator, and these bolts here are on that side of there, so you can't get to them without taking the manifold off. I was lucky, after lubricating them with WD-40, they both spun out with mole grips. So, because obviously to get a Torx bit in there, you've got to go from the other side. So that was that piece off. And then we've got some bracketry here that holds the DPF. Obviously I'm going to go underneath and undo that. This all undid easily. So when I get underneath and undo the downpipe, this should all drop down. And it has two pipes off the metal pipes that go to the DPF, and what they are, they're your pressure sensor pipes. So that tells the ECU if the DPF is getting blocked, because it measures the pressure before the DPF and after the DPF, and it's that difference that decides on whether it's blocked or not, whether it needs to regen and things like that. So I'm not going to disturb all this, it's all quite nice. I'm going to unbolt it, and then when we drop the DPF down, it'll all just go down with the DPF. So it's not too painful as yet. I'm not underneath it yet, but there's nothing really that tricky. I just thought it looked worse than it did. That's the heat shield, and the starter is under here. So when we get the DPF down, we can take all this bracketry off the heat shield, and hopefully we get access to the bolts on the bell housing and just slippy slide the starter up the top here. Okay, underneath the car now, apart from having a nice selection of oil leaks, there is the second part of the DPF. Don't know what that piece is. It must be a catalyst or something, because it hasn't got any pressure sensors on it. So we've got to undo that clamp above it there, undo them brackets, and then I think what happens is that stays where it is, or might need to move it for access actually to get to the bell housing bolts, and we can then lift the DPF out the top, and we're going to investigate this oil leak at the same time so you can work out what's going on. Okay chaps, I think we're just about there with getting all this off. There was this type of setup that held the DPF or whatever that thing is to there. I've not undone that because I haven't got the correct Torx. I have managed to undo that pressure sensor, so this may be a DPF after all, because I didn't see that. Luckily with my lucky spray, it luckily came out. There's also another one up there that you need to undo and pull out before you can lift the first part. Perhaps the first one is a catalyst. Now, something I should have mentioned before, if you ever get underneath a car like this, it'll kill you if it falls off a jack. So I've got wood, and I've also got Hillman imp engine, which can't go anywhere. So I know that if the jack fails and the wood fails, at least the engine, it'll make a mess of the floor pan, but it won't get me. Of course, there's many a good man fella a bad do underneath one of these things. This is 2 tons of, you know, Sherman tank. It won't stop, it'll just squash you. Right, let's get on top and pull that out. Hopefully we'll have access then, but I think this is going to have to come off to get access to the bell housing bolt. We've had a development. I managed to knock a 10mm socket on that Torx bolt, undid the downpipe. This is now just hanging here. That looks quite clean inside. I was half expecting it to have nothing inside it and find out it'd been mapped out of it or something, but the machine does short journeys and it's been running fine, to be fair. This is a little clamp that needs to be undone so that the pipe can go upwards. I think in hindsight it would have been cleverer to undo the pipes off the DPF sensor, but I didn't want to disturb them. Anyway, we are where we are. I can now see those 2 torque bolts up there hold the starter motor on, so we're getting closer. We are getting closer. Right, this all it is to get out of here. Oh look, It's a boy. We've had to get a kitchen chair on the job. Now, I'm not a brave man, but I know what I can get away with. And when I'm working on the wife's car, I can get away with anything. So the kitchen chair won't be a problem. Now, what I've done is took that heat shield off. We can see the starter motor now. Now, I know from my small mechanical experience, if you join the positive there to that little switching wire there, which it won't focus on, we should get cranking if the starter's good. But what we're getting is a spark and a small noise, but the solenoid is not throwing the pinion gear into mesh, which means it's 100% the starter that's faulty. Now, I'd say, looking at it, I'm the first person to be here. It even had a little plastic dust cover over there. So we'll get the replacement starter now, undo these 2 bolts and fit it, disconnect the battery again first, and then hopefully we'll be cranking. Got the replacement starter here in my bucket of tools. Now, this is eBay's finest. I've tested it. It looks the same. Now, this is a genuine Bosch replacement second-hand starter motor from an om651 engine. I would never ever buy a replacement, 100 quid I saw them for second-hand new starter motor, because you can't make that starter motor for 100 quid. So I'd always replace it with a second-hand one. If I had loads of money, I'd buy a new starter from Mercedes, probably about 500 quid. But as that one's lasted 170,000 miles, I'd say it's a good chance that we'll get a few miles out of this. And anyway, it only took me a couple of hours to do it, and if it did fail, I'd know exactly what to undo. I bet you I'd be in here in about 30 minutes, 40 minutes tops. Right, let's get it on. Because I'm operating literally out of a Blue Point toolkit, I haven't got any Torx bits, but I do know that you can use a ring spanner. So that's the top starter motor bolt there. If you see, I've just hooked a ring over it and I can actually get it moving. It's quite tight, but it does work. On again, slip that down, get it on all the way. Oops, not all the way. There you go, it's gone now. Excellent. Okay, chaps, the moment of truth. The starter's on. I've left the exciter wire disconnected. I just put the battery back on, and I want to test the function of the starter before I build it up. So this is the main 12-volt bus feed here, what I call a big power cable from the battery, and that's where the exciter wire goes just above it. So if I bridge that to that, this should crank. Yes, we're in business. Right, great. So we've already checked the wiring's fine. So as long as I've not upset it anyway, it should work when I build it back together again. Okay, chaps, the moment of truth. She's all back together. Actually wasn't as bad as I first thought. Problem is, we've got an oil leak from the back of the head. I don't know what it's from, but it's going to be another day job before we get to it. Let's see if it works. Oh, thank the Lord.